And I said, I don't want to be an absent dad because of alcohol. I probably would not be alive.
This is just real life, right? Welcome to the Overcome Depression podcast. The tools you learn here can make depression a part of your past, allow healing regardless of your present circumstances, and offer hope for your future. I am your host, Jennifer Stirling-Campbell. It's a miracle, I would say, that two people can stay married forever for this life and make it work. I mean, there's lots of failures. I've had two of them, but I'm really grateful for the 5-year marriage that I have right now, and still lots of progression to be made. And I think you mentioned chaos. I actually listened to something specifically about finding organization and creativity, for like taking chaos and making it into something beautiful and creative. And so that reminded me of that. And one of the things that they talked about was that in the ancient tradition, usually the evil character was chaos. And then the hero of the story would come and organize the chaos or defeat the one creating the chaos, and that all would be made well. And some people kind of it was a discussion, and some people were kind of almost like, oh no, like chaos is good because it helps us to grow. And I'm like, well, yes, of course, there's a purpose to chaos, but we don't want to lean into the chaos. We want to move away from the chaos and create. So I suppose as a parent, what is your biggest challenge in creating organization or beauty from the chaos? Because kids are really good at the chaos, and too, they'll make messes and then they're like, whoa, this is chaotic, and they'll move into a new part of the house where it's not as chaotic and then make a chaotic mess there.
It is a daily struggle. Not a struggle. It's a daily occurrence in our house because we have a variety of ages. Our 6-year-old, she kind of does her own thing, and then our 4-year-old just makes a hurricane out of everything, and then our 1-year-old, obviously, she just grabs something and throws it somewhere else. So we're always following behind and picking up and putting things away, and it's just like this circle that continues through the house. How do we make something beautiful out of all this? I think it's all in a beauty of its own. It's beautifully chaotic. Our life would not be what it is if we didn't have this. And it's something that I wanted since I was a young man. Obviously, it didn't happen until I was almost 40, but it was something that I wanted for so long. And same with my wife. She wanted to be a mother, and it took us going through our trials to get where we're at. And now I think back, I'm like, man, if the chaos that we have right now didn't exist, it would be just something just utterly chaotic and just a complete mess. I probably would not be alive, and my wife would be with someone else because she's just that amazing, where any guy would be lucky to have her because she's devoted, and she's a wonderful mother. And of course we butt heads and we fight about silly things, but that's what makes our life beautifully chaotic.
So let's speak more to that. Because I really want to talk about your story, which is incredible. Because in one of my previous podcasts, I talk about how the decision to decide is the most important decision we will ever make. And I think you would agree with that statement.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
So what happened to you, and you can recreate or reframe the story, is that you, I'm sorry, had a extreme addiction to alcohol for 10 years.
Yeah.
It was one of those really, really like consumed your life completely.
It really did. And I don't know if a lot of people that are close to me really know how deep it affected me.
Because you did a really good job of covering.
Because I did hide it, and I hid it very well. So how it, I don't even really know how it started. It just happened, and it was just there. And it took me a long time to realize that, yes, here it is. And there were many things that happened.
How long did it take you to figure out that you had a problem?
A long time.
Was it years?
It was
years. You thought you were fine, And
Yes, and because it was just a normal to me.
mm-hmm,
I didn't realize it until things started happening. So I'll just kind of jump into my story. I got divorced, and prior to my first marriage, it was a social thing,
mm-hmm,
and I controlled it well. It was just something that young people do, you know. And now that I look back at it, even prior to that, I still think of it as social, but that's kind of where it all started, and it started building and taking a hold of me. And so I got divorced, and I remember on my divorce date, as soon as I was done in court, I went to the bar, and at my court hearing or date, it was like 10 o'clock in the morning. And as soon as I was done with that, I took the day off from work because I'm gonna go drown myself afterwards. I'm gonna. So I headed to the bar, and I didn't stop until bar time. So figure start at noon. Bar time here is 2 a.m. That's a good 14 hours of drinking.
mm-hmm.
And after that, it just progressed to a daily thing. And I was high functioning. So I would go to work. I would do my shift at work, and I was an office worker, so I wasn't operating machinery or doing anything unsafe like that, but I was still high functioning where I was
Mm-hmm.
able to go to work. I would get off work, go home, take a nap. When I would get up from my nap, I would head to the bar. My dinners consisted of bar food and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was beer or mixed drinks or whatever it was, typically during the work week, this sounds so silly, but I was semi-responsible where I would only drink beer.
Mm-hmm.
But when the weekends rolled around, it was hard liquor, and and it was a daily thing. I would come home, take a nap, go until the bar's closed, get home from the bar, get a few hours of sleep, and then get up for work and do it all over again. And there was times where I can guarantee you I was still intoxicated when I went to work, but I covered it up well enough that nobody really knew what was going on. And I did
Yeah.
this for probably 10 years. And when I first met my current wife, she she did not encourage me. She didn't do anything to progress my addiction further. She was there. She supported me on the good things. She
Mm-hmm.
didn't support me going to drink or do anything like that.
But she saw something in you that she
But she saw
liked.
something in me that she liked, and I still question her. I'm like, what? What were you thinking? Like, you got yourself into some
She
serious.
was, I would say she's lucky. Not everyone ends up being married to someone who loves their family as much as you do
Yeah,
and who decides to give that up. I mean, a lot of people don't change. So
yeah.
what
It's
caused you to change?
um. I'm trying to think of the year. It was probably about 2016. I crashed my vehicle, and I left the scene. Nobody saw it happen. Nobody did anything, but I left. And now I can imagine the police departments around here are probably like, what was that?
Yeah.
But I crashed my vehicle. It didn't phase me a bit. I drove back to where I was living at the time, and I woke up in the morning and I was like, what happened? And there were bits and pieces, but I had passed out behind the wheel, and I hit some street signs or some road signs and wiped those out, damaged my truck, and that was my first wake up call. Did it do
Hmm.
anything at the time? No, it wasn't. That wasn't the right time for me. So then maybe a year after that, this time it did get me. I went to a party at my local spot. They had a band that night, and this was one of the spots that probably 95% of the time that's where I went.
Hmm.
I go in there, everybody knows your name, they're your friend. Left there, and I was arrested for drunk driving. And I can remember this was 2 days before Christmas. It was the day before Christmas Eve. So
Hmm.
23rd of December in 2017, 16. That one really hit. I was so ashamed of myself that I did not go to Christmas, did not spend any time with my family. I called my brother to pick me up from the police station that night when it happened, because he was the only one that he had no opinion on it. I knew he had an opinion inside,
But he wasn't vocal
but
in
he
shaming
wasn't
you
vocal
about
about
it.
it. He came to pick
Yeah.
me up and said, whatever. And the shame and the guilt and the just boom in your face. Well, here you are. This is now on your record. This is it. I can't even describe the shame. It just consumed me. And I was kind of dating my wife now at the time, and she could not believe it. She didn't judge me. She knew that I was at fault, and I think she actually came to spend Christmas with me, because I didn't want to go anywhere and show my face and just engulf in the flame or whatever. And she spent it with me, and at that time, it hit for the first time. So I quit drinking after that for a long time. I'm like, I can't. Just the shame factor was one thing, and then you look at the financial factor of what just happened. You have court costs and everything that goes with it, and
Well, and alcohol is pretty expensive too.
it is,
It's,
it
it's
is, and
quite a drain.
on any given night, it was $80 easily, and so you multiply that by. It was 6 days a week that I would do this. I would
Yeah.
generally take off Sundays and not do anything on Sundays, not drink on Sundays. So you figure that $80 times 6 days a week, that
Yeah. It's
adds
like
up.
$480 a week.
Yeah,
You're looking at
and that's
what,
just an average.
17,
There's
1800
other,
a month.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I spent a small savings on alcohol in 10 years easily, and so when that happened, I was like, okay, that was a wake up call. I'm going to stop now. And I did. I stopped for probably 5 months. And during this time, I'm still dating my wife, and everything happens. And we had a good. I started back up again,
Yeah.
drinking. And
Well, and when you said the shame and the guilt was consuming, it made me think that that could be a deterrent for a while.
yeah,
But shame and guilt is also what causes people to go back into addiction.
yeah.
And so I don't think it's a permanent fix, the shame and the guilt. That it
No, and
usually goes full circle and then you end up using again. It
yeah,
has to come from something else, not shame and guilt.
yes.
And according to you, that was what happened next, which is the cool part of the story.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm trying to think. I know my steel trap of a memory has gotten a little rusty over the years. And the next week, we're both at work. We worked at the same place. I was back into my drinking habits and all this, and found out that she was pregnant. And that was a big wake up call. But still, at the time, it was like not there. We're having this child. I was not a good person at the time. I was not good to her. There were other extenuating circumstances going on behind the scenes. We won't dive into those with this conversation, but there were things going on with me in my personal life, and she's pregnant. We're gonna have a baby, and it was sometime that summer, late summer. Come November, and I remember the date. I remember exactly everything about it. Deer hunting here in Wisconsin is a tradition. It is a big deal. And so I hunted for years and years and years with my best friend. We always hunted together. And November 18th was the start of deer camp here in Wisconsin, November 18th of 2017. And I remember the day. It's also my dad's birthday. That was the day after sitting through everything and realize everything. I am going to have a child. This child is going to look up to me. They're going to depend on me. I cannot be just some jerk of a dad, some bum on the street, an alcoholic. I do not want to be that dad. November 18th of 2017 was the day that I said, that's it. From that day,
Yeah.
and it sure made, don't get me wrong, I was absolutely grateful. It sure made deer camp strange that year, because
Yeah.
prior to that, it was me and the boys, and we'd go and have our beers, and then we'd go shoot guns the next day, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the day that I said, enough is enough. Like, that's it. November
That was
18th
your
of
moment
2000.
of decision.
That was my moment. And there
Yeah.
were a lot of things that played into it, but most of all, it was my now wife and the fact that we were going to have a child. What I learned later, what I had going on, and
Mm.
my wife had her issues with alcohol, not her, but with her family, and she had that going on. And I said, I don't want to be an absent dad. Even though I may be there, I will be absent because of alcohol. I said,
Yeah.
that's it.
Would you say that the decision was more heavily, I'm going to be a good dad, and then the alcohol just fell away? Or was it, I'm going to quit alcohol so that I can be a good dad? I mean, they kind of go together, of course. But
Yeah.
what do you think was the driving factor here?
There's a
Like, I
lot.
can't, I feel like when people say, well, I can't do this, it just makes them want to do it more. And it's more of a driving force if you're like, I can do this, or my life could look like this if I ABC.
Yeah, boy, that's a tough one. The way that I looked at it is, I look at my dad and my friends, and they don't have a problem controlling themselves
Mm-hmm.
with it. With me, it it wasn't so much about controlling it. It was, I just couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
because one would lead into two, into three. By the end of it, it's bar close. I'm having a good time, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
also 12 beers in, or however many drinks in. I just never found I could just stop.
Yeah. And you had to want to commit to
And
that. And
yes,
before that, there wasn't that desire. So, what do you think was the biggest factor keeping you from making that choice? That moment of decision, 10 years ago?
you know,
What made it so hard?
it was just, there. It was
Yeah.
just there, and that may just sound so, not really to the point, but that's how it was. It was just there. It was just something that I did,
Part of
and
your identity.
part of who I was.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, it was part of my identity at the time, and knowing what I know now, it was also in my genes, and it's my biological dad was an alcoholic. That's how he died. But I did not find that out until years after the fact.
And you
You know,
said you don't tell many people this.
I don't tell many people at all. My friends, my close friends know. Obviously, my family knows, but my drinking friends or acquaintances had no idea, and a lot of them still don't, and they won't, and that's quite all right with me. I have my
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
I have my tribe, and what they know about me, they can take who I am for face value. I mean, because now that's really what I am. I am a devoted and loving dad and husband, and I'm the soccer dad and the
Yeah.
dance
Tell me
dad.
more about that. What kind of dad did you want to create and
Well,
have created?
exactly who I am. That's who I wanted to be. I I am an emotional dude, and I am not one to shy away from crying or my feelings or anything like that. I wanted to be the dad that his girls will dress up and put on lipstick and paint his nails. That's who I am. It hasn't happened yet. I have no problem getting on stage with my girls and dancing in a tutu. Whatever they want me to do, I am like all in. You can count me in, no question
Mm-hmm.
about it. And
I
so
think
here
it feels to me like your pride when it comes to your girls is so much in your girls that any other pride just falls away. Pride in your appearance or pride in what people will think. It's just like you don't care because
I
you're
have
so proud
I
of these
don't.
girls.
I am so proud of these girls and who they are and everything about them. I am proud of. My 6 year old, almost seven, she is very, very, very mathematically smart. She
Hmm.
doesn't see it, but I see it exactly, and she gets that from me. Consider myself a math genius. I was taking college math in junior high and high school. I
Yeah.
was in like very, very advanced college math. I did anything with it, but it comes easy to me, and I see that in her.
Hmm.
my my 4 year old, she is just a little spitfire of she has the attitude on her like you would not believe. They all have attitude, of course. And then my 1 year old she's the daredevil. I thought my
Hmm.
4 year old was, but our 1 year old is going to put her to shame. And
What's the most daring thing she's done up to this
uh,
point?
up to this point, she has this little slide, the little Tyke slide. It's
Mm.
like, I think it's my little Tyke's first slide or whatever it is. And it's not that high. It's meant for little girls or little kids their age. She's one. But she climbs up to the top and she stands on top with her hands in the air and just starts like jumping up and down. And it just terrifies me because, it's for her a four
That's a
foot
yeah.
drop is still going to do some damage.
It's a good thing they're floppy. I had a similar experience with my now 2.5 year old, and it wasn't that long ago. But we have a goat pen that's about as tall as a roof, and the panels on the side have basically a cage so that
Yep.
he could put his feet in it and climb. And he climbed on top of that roof, and I was making soup at the time, and I had the door open, like I was checking on him because he wanted to be outside. And my neighbors were actually the ones that were like, hey, your son. He was on top of the roof jumping on top of this roof. And I'm just like, oh, like, my neighbors are, oh, this is so embarrassing. And I'm so glad I have nice neighbors that didn't call CPS. But
Yeah.
he wouldn't come down. I had to, and it's not as easy for an adult to climb up that thing
Yeah.
as a kid. So it took some doing. I got up there finally and grabbed him, but oh my gosh, it was
It's
terrifying.
it is it's terrifying. And my wife, she's always, you have to let them experience this stuff. Like what did
Yeah,
you do when you were a kid? I said I was crazy. I know what I was doing. I was crazy, and I look back now and I'm like, how are we alive when we were
I know.
it
There's got
was,
to be so many angels protecting
oh
kids.
my
It
goodness,
just
yeah.
seriously,
And
even
she's
at
like,
playground, I look at playgrounds and all the places they can fall and to their
yes.
death. Yet they don't. I
It's
haven't heard of that ever happening. I'm sure it has, but yeah,
but they build this playground equipment around the fact that they are kids and they're going to fall and get hurt and all this stuff, but still it terrifies me. I am such an overprotective dad, and it's probably one of my greatest faults. I'm so overprotective, but I look at these three little beautiful little girls that I created with my wife, and I'm like, man, I just don't want anything to happen to them. In their entire life,
yeah.
I will protect them as much as I can.
So with that in mind, how are you going to teach them about addiction and alcohol, and when are you going to do this? Like how young? Because I started insanely young with my kids because I felt like if I don't teach them, someone else will, and I might
Yeah,
not like the way they teach them. And it seems like a lot of these really horrific things that we hear about happening to children are happening younger and younger and younger. And so, what are your thoughts on that? And encouragement to parents who are really weary or uncomfortable about talking about those things.
uh, we are pretty much very, very open with them, regardless of how old they are. We really don't hide anything from them
Mm-hmm.
for the exact reason that we're talking about.
Do you tell them about your history, what you struggled with, and
Sort of. I got in a car with a drunk driver and broke my back. And that may even have been part of the cause for my addiction. I broke my back, and so my body is literally riddled with scars. And of course, they see me walking around without a shirt on or whatever, and they will ask about it. And I am very upfront with them. I'm like, this is what happened. This is why it happened. And this is why I'm at the point where I'm at, and I don't drink alcohol or beer or anything like that. So we are very upfront on our past, my past. The only thing that we haven't really dove into yet is the biological dad.
Well,
The whole thing.
yeah, I don't see a reason for that necessarily at this point.
Yeah, that will come up in due time. And I go back and forth on it. Do I tell them? Do they really need to know? Well, they kind of do because of the DNA that is in them, the genes that are in them. Why are they this way? And that's the only reason that I dove into it as much as I did, was because what makes me is going to be in them now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to know exactly who they are, where they come from, and all that fun stuff in between. So, is there an age? No. We are very honest and open in this house, and that's the way that we choose to do it. You said you started at a young age, and that's how you chose to do it. And I don't fault anyone who has issues that they want to hide, or it's just how we choose to do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And every child's different too. So you
Yes.
kind of have to be intuitive about how you do things with different kids. With that said, just because you're firm set in one way,
Exactly.
you might want to consider meditating on that, and maybe changing things for the child is different than the one you thought you would be raising. Or their needs might be different than what you think your needs are, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
So, yeah. Do you have any words for people who don't believe it's possible to quit in a day, like you did? I mean, it was literally cold turkey, done. You made the choice. All other options were cut off, and you haven't drank since. How long has it been?
It will be 8 years this year.
That's significant. Do you have any concern about ever falling back into that again, or is that done, finished, never going back?
Never going back. And I look at it and I still amaze myself. There's, prior to this talk that we're having, there's one day a year that I brag about it. And my wife questioned me this. She said, why do you put it on social media that on why you're sober, how long you've been sober? And I'm like, because it's one day a year that I will brag the blippity blip blip swear words that I will brag the significance of this about myself. It is something that I am very proud of, considering I look back at where I was to where I am now with that single day. This is it. And that was. So it's the one day a year, November 18th, that I brag every single time. And I will do it until the day that I am done and gone.
I love that.
And
I mean, I think it is an absolutely magnificent reason to celebrate. It's basically the way I see it, it's your redemption day. You changed. Your heart changed. Yes. You became a different person because you decided that's the old person. I thank you for all of those learning experiences. Don't want to do that anymore. This is the new version of me. And to embrace that new person completely and to love that new person so completely that you wouldn't ever be willing to succumb the you are now to that ever again.
Yep. And there are, my wife, she will have a drink occasionally. She's not a big drinker by any means. And she'll have one. She's like, do you ever think you'll have one with me sometime? I don't think so. It's not something that I don't want to even question it. Like, if I were to have a drink with her, what would happen? Would I fall back into it? Would it be just that one drink and that was it? I don't even want to question it. I don't even want to think about it.
Not worth it.
It's not, because if I did fall back in, it would cause just major rifts between our relationship. if I were to fall back in, it would ruin everything that I have built with my life, and by that I mean my marriage and my kids. And on the flip side, would it be the only one drink? Maybe, but it's not something I want to entertain. I don't even want to think about it. That past life is behind me, and going forward, this is who I am.
Yeah.
I am this proud dad, proud husband. I am out there dancing in a tutu on a soccer field in ice skates.
And
I
that's,
can combine everything.
yeah.
And that would be me. I would be on the soccer field in ice skates, dancing in a tutu.
And
That's
that's
who I
what
am.
I want this podcast, this program to be encouraging all about, and give lots of examples to people of this could be you too.
Yeah,
That essentially I'm encouraging listeners to give up something forever. And no matter what that is, it could be cookies or maybe just chocolate chips. But to say, I don't do that anymore. If you struggle
yeah,
with obesity, maybe that's the thing. And to embrace, like, now I do this. I used to do that. Now I do this. And it
yeah,
becomes a part of your identity. And once it's decided, it's very easy to say no. And I can honestly say that my personal virtue when it came to sexual activity before I was married, it wasn't always easy. I would want to engage sometimes, but I made the decision as a child, literally, that that was not something I was ever going to be willing to do. And I stuck by that until I got married the third time. I've only had sexual relationships in marriage. And a lot of people think that that's not possible, that that's not realistic to think that someone could do that. But I know personally people who have, even famous people. Can't remember them off the top of my head, but there are people on this planet. I think it's about 5%. It's not a large segment of the
yeah.
population that decided. And when you decide, everything changes. It's almost like the universe just comes behind you and just like it like sustains that decision and will
Yeah.
help you, and everything else falls away.
It is, and when I first started talking about this, it was not just my battle with addiction and alcohol. It caused such great depression as well. They went hand in hand for me.
Yeah.
And once I tackled one, I was able to successfully tackle the other. And they probably happened at the same time, but to me they went hand in hand.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody has their down days, and I do as well. But it does not define who I am now.
Right. Do you ever look back and can you be grateful for what you've been through? Does that
Absolutely,
resonate at all?
absolutely. Because everything that I have gone through, I look back often and I'm like, man, if I could go and change how things happened, I would. And that is not true at all. I would not change a single thing because it would not put me to where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be this husband, this dad. I would not have the things that I have had something else happened.
Yeah. It's very humbling when you realize where you were, and you look back and it, like, to me, I'm just like, oh man, I can't believe I did that, being who I am now, but I did. And to be grateful, and it's that humility, I think, is what makes the triumph so sweet. It's not a pride. It's a it's
Yeah,
a it's a form of gratitude where I can know that if I went back to doing all the things that I did, of course I would become who I was.
yeah,
But that's not even remotely what I want anymore.
yeah. I look back, and one of the biggest things in my life was my accident and breaking just every bone in my body, basically. And I can remember I was unable to care for myself. So my parents at the time, they rented a hospital bed that I was able to stay in at their house. And I can remember sitting in my wheelchair, staring out their patio door. And I'm like, this is it. I am going to end it.
Mm.
I can't live like this. I don't want to sit in a wheelchair and stare out the back of their house at nothing. I seriously thought, I'm done. I'm not going to live like this. I'm not going to go through the rest of my life with these aches and pains and learn how to walk again. And for whatever reason, I didn't make that decision. I went on with my life and things progressed. And going through that a few different times in my life, throughout my life, for whatever reason, figuratively, I never pulled that trigger. I never put that wheel in motion, and I am here and I'm grateful for it. And getting back to what we were saying, I would not have changed any single thing about my journey to where I'm at. I would not have met my wife. I would not have found my job and met my wife and gone camping and then come back to find out that we're having a child. I would not have learned all the things in my life that I've learned had I gone back and skipped a portion of it. I know I've told you I have gone through a lot in my life, and I'm sure we will dive into it again in a future podcast. Come on mine, I'll come on yours. I have gone through so much that, and I joke about it, but I'm getting to the point where I'm half serious now. Like, I need to write a book.
Yeah, I'd read your book.
And I need to write a biography and just put my life's happenings into paper, because I tell you what, I can go on and on about everything that has happened to me in my life, and you know, I think I may have to do it because I would be the most interesting man in the room every time. They would look at me like, "Are you serious? How does this happen? How does so many things happen to one individual?" But I tell you what, the last line of my book, it would be, I would not be who I am today had not all of these things happened in my life. And to quote Michael Scott, somehow we manage. um, but here I am. I would not change a thing.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this podcast today. I think your life experience is invaluable. I think it will give hope to many who struggle, specifically, especially with chemical addiction to alcohol. It's
Yeah,
not a uncommon thing, especially after COVID. I feel like it just went crazy. People are struggling more than ever before. More people are dying from alcohol overdoses than ever before. I was reading that just this week, which makes me really sad. And it's not that it's easy to get to that point where you can quit, but it's
yeah.
possible. And you can, once you get to that moment of decision, and it's just getting you to that moment of decision that we want to do so that you
It
can be
is.
free
Yeah,
of this
it is just getting
prison.
there.
Yeah.
And so Wisconsin has historically been one of the drunkest states in the union, right?
Oh, shoot.
And it's absolutely crazy if you look at, like, by counties or cities or whatever. And Wisconsin is just always there.
Yeah.
And
Now,
let me tell
don't
you
want to
what,
forget. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going.
no, if I can do it living in one of the drunkest states and the drunkest areas of the state, man, anybody can do it.
How important do you feel like a support system is in recovery? Because I know you said that you had to have a unique situation where you didn't have to cut off all of your drinking friends because they were really supportive of you. They didn't encourage you to keep drinking, but
Yeah,
that's not always the case.
it's not always the case, and that the support system is it's so beneficial for me. And it comes in different forms, right? For me,
Mm-hmm.
my wife has told me straight out. She's like, if you go back to the way you ever were, not that it's ever crossed my mind. If you were to go back to the way you were, the girls and I would not be here. That's a form of support right there, right?
Yeah, the spousal support.
Yeah. And my good friends, it's not even a thing.
Hmm.
They know I don't. They know it's a choice that I made. And yeah, and
So it shows that you don't necessarily have to cut off everyone in your
absolutely,
life if if
Absolutely
they're
not.
supportive and like genuinely supportive, because I think
Yeah.
there's definitely situations where people pretend to be supportive,
Yep.
but they really have other ideas. So it's
Yeah.
be intuitive, but
So
that
I think of my closest friends. I have a couple brothers that are really close to me, and a couple friends. I can probably count them on one hand. One of them, he is one of my oldest friends. He was also one of my greatest drinking buddies. Like everything that we did together, we were drinking at the
mm,
time. Whether it was going to baseball games, going hunting, ice fishing, whatever we were doing, it involved drinking. We still do that. He's still one of my closest friends. Just take out the part where I was drinking, and it made no difference in our relationship. I often have said I am still the crazy son of a bee that I was then. I just take out part of the equation,
yeah,
and it doesn't have anything to do with who I was
mm-hmm,
or who I
yeah,
am. Another one of my other close friends, he's been friends with me. I can remember him coming to school in second grade. That's how long that we've basically been friends. To the same college together for a while. He he may drink now a little bit, but I know for a while he quit, and good for him. You know,
yeah,
it never comes into question with him either. My brothers, they will have their occasional drinks. They
mm-hmm,
can control it. Very proud of them for being able to do it. I can't. They don't question anything. If we have to get-togethers, they make sure that they have diet soda for me. I'm a diabetic as well.
right. Yeah, that is amazing. I mean, and it's unusual. I feel like it's unusual. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I I guess I don't have that experience to know for myself.
Yeah.
But I have one more question for you,
Yeah.
and that is, what do you feel makes life worth living?
Love. Yeah. The love that I feel for my kids and my wife, um, it's what the definition, the generalized definition of what love is. That's what I feel, and I am reciprocated that back to my girls. I am the greatest person in the world, along with their mother, of course. But they look up to everything that we do. My
Yeah,
wife
they
will look
really
to
do
me.
try to copy us too. I mean,
Yes,
it
yes,
yeah.
absolutely, they do. They do, and my wife loves me unconditionally,
Mm-hmm.
and by combining all of these things that we have talked about, it's sure I have had a tough life. I don't look for sympathy, but that tough life gives me the greatest life that I have right now.
Yeah.
I would not
For
have changed anything about it. And love.
so what would you say, sorry to ask another question, but just to clarify for those who don't feel that there's anyone in their life right now who they can rely on or trust, they feel alone essentially, which I've heard is kind of at the crux of
Yep.
addiction is no connection. So what advice would you have for someone who does not feel loved or the ability to love right now?
You know what? And this may sound funny, and it may not sound true or real, but if they're looking for somebody to love them, to talk, what? Hey, I'm here.
That's awesome.
I'm here.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to connect with me, give me a shout.
Yeah. And where can people reach out to you?
You can find me on Facebook, Chad Pepper, Peper. I'm like the spice, only one P in the middle.
Hmm. If there's
Um,
other Chad Peppers, which one are you?
I don't think there is. We have the most unique name. um, but I also have a podcast, Doing Our Best.
There a website for that?
There's a I don't know if I don't think I have a website yet. But I have the social media, so I'm on Instagram and Facebook and the TikTok, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how to use it. My wife gives me because I TikTok whatever.
That's
You
for
can find me out
kids.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Believe me, that's it's going to be gone here soon because
Yeah.
I just, whatever. um, But yeah, I should be the only one on Facebook. Chad Pepper, Peper. Yep, no two P's. Like the spice, only one P in the middle. And I'm serious. If you need somebody to talk to, I say it all the time, and I've said it to many of my friends, and I am available anytime. I may not be happy about it at the moment, but I will always be here. A good friend of mine, Corduroy Brown. He's a musician I met a few years ago. He hails from Huntington, West Virginia, and I tell him every single time how amazing he is, and he reciprocates that. And I tell him, I'm like, you ever need anybody to talk to at any time, whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's 1 in the afternoon, you can call me. I may not always have the time, but I will make it. I will find the time. Life is precious. I am living proof that you can have the exact life that you want, and you don't want the support. You want to talk. You want to doing our best. That's what
I mean, look
we
at
are
your
doing.
past. It was pretty horrific. And
Yes.
and I think a lot of people struggle with that. Well, I don't deserve it. I've done so many bad things. It's over for me. And
Yeah.
get over it. Chad got over it. Like I
Yeah,
don't mean that to sound
it is.
harsh, but stop living in the past. Yes, you've done
Yes.
things. We've all done
Yeah.
things, and you might think, "But I'm the worst." And no, you're not. Like there's a lot of
No,
people
you're not.
who have done horrible things, who
Yeah.
healed and made the world a better place from here on out. You know,
There's a lot of
we're not
healing that.
perfect,
Yeah.
but we do the best we can. We're doing our best. Your podcast name.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And whatever it is, whatever it is. Like if somebody wants to call, this they play video games and they don't have anybody to talk to about video games. I am a well versed man. Like I have put my hand in anything. Nowadays, I may not do the video games. I may be more into reading one of my 400 books that I have to go through to read because I love to read. But really, whatever it is,
yeah. And thank you for that offer. And I
yeah,
hope that those of you who are listening who are thinking, oh, I really shouldn't bother him, please bother him. He's
yeah, really,
offering to help you. Reach
yes,
out to him, even like, please. So, thank you so
yeah,
much again for being here today. I know you have kids to pick up from the bus.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I probably need to let you go to go do your amazing dad thing.
yeah,
And this is the
yeah.
Overcome Depression podcast. I'm Jennifer Stirling-Campbell. We'll see you next time. If you are new to this podcast, please go watch all of the hashtag introduction videos first, and then consider downloading the Overcome Depression workbook. Links in the description. The content in this podcast is based on my own personal beliefs, is for informational purposes only, and is not intended to substitute for medical advice, diagnoses, or treatment. Please refer to the full legal disclaimer in the description.